Welcome to First Fruits Coffee. Today we are going through how to make the best espresso at home. When it comes to at-home espresso making, there's a few things that we need to consider when we're setting up our space. One of the biggest contributions to how good it's going to taste is the coffee that you're using. The other one is going to be the water that you put in. And the third one is going to be the espresso machine that you're going to use. These machines aren't going to get up to the similar kind of pressure that we get in our cafe environment, which is fine. There's definitely a lot to be said about low pressure extractions. This thing doesn't have a boiler, it has a thermoblock, which means it's got a coil and the water's heating up on the way and then it distributes it onto the puck, where a commercial espresso machine has a giant boiler in order to be able to put in hot water consistently. This isn't going to need that. Like, you're going to be pouring 2, 3, 4 shots maybe in a row in order to get it good. And so these are actually quite good to make coffee at home. Today we're using one of the mid-tier Breville machines. They're quite good. The Cafe series from Sunbeam is also a rivaling kind of competitor in that space. These ones have the grinder built in, which is essentially just one of these old style smart grinders, which are very good home grinders. They've kind of built it in, which I don't love because it's going to get a little hot. But realistically, it's not too bad. It's going to grind it well. It's going to extract it well, as long as you follow the steps that we're about to learn. If you've been watching our videos for a little while now, you are going to have heard me go on and on about dose, yield, and time. Espresso making at home is exactly the same. We often find people will come in and say, we can't get it to taste like yours can, which is probably pretty true. They're not going to be able to get it to taste exactly the same. But if we weigh our dose, if we weigh our yields, which is the coffee coming out, and we time it all, you're going to get close. These machines can produce milk foam very similar to our commercial espresso machines. They're not going to do as quickly, but I think the quality of steam that you can get from one of these machines is very, very close to a commercial machine. Realistically, there's no reason that you can't have enjoyable coffee at home, especially if you're making a milky beverage. Now, when purchasing a machine, I will almost always encourage whoever it is coming to ask us about what we should do for home, if they want to use espresso and they like milk coffee, I would always encourage you to have a look at secondhand. Often what we find is that people will go spending a lot of money on coffee. I could just make it myself at home. They'll go and spend a couple of $1,000s on something brand new, and then basically within 3 to 6 months, it's for sale on Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, because it does take a bit of effort in the morning and it does take a little bit of knowledge. And so I think that if you can learn these steps, which is quite easy, and you want to put a little bit of effort in the morning, it's actually a really good way to cut down on a lot of coffee costs that will be associated if you come and buy a milky beverage every day. Now, it's going to taste far better in the cafe. Honestly, myself, I never make espresso at home. I just can't replicate it in the same way as I can at the cafe. But I definitely used something like this for a very long period of time before I worked in coffee, because you can replicate your milky beverages at home quite well to a way that it is actually going to be quite enjoyable for you. As long as you follow the steps, you just put in a little bit of effort and you really should be able to get there. Okay, so this machine is almost brand new. It hasn't been set up. So basically we're going to chuck some coffee in, we're going to pull a shot, and we're just going to see what happens. This is how, when our baristas arrive at our stores each morning, they will just chuck the coffee in, pull a shot, and see what happens, so that they know where they are in order to be able to make the corrections on the coffee to get it back where it needs to go. Today we are using First Fruits Coffee house blend called Crowd Pleaser. Coffee's going in. If you're at home, you probably don't want too much coffee sitting in here. It's going to get hot, it's going to go stale. These bags have resealable zips. Let's stick them back in there. Using my scales, I'm going to tear my portafilter. Then I'm going to stick it into the grinder and it's going to start grinding. I think we're going to stick with our dose to be at 19 grams. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty full. Beautiful, 19 grams. All right, so I'm going to give it a bit of a distribution, kind of settle the bed. Then we're going to give it a tamp. These things usually have a tamp stuck up under here. Give it a compaction. What we really want to try and do is, if we can, let's get the coffee below the level of the rim so that we can tamp it nice and hard. Nice flat tamp, hopefully. And then I'm going to stick it in. And you're going to grab our scales, put them on there. We're going to grab a cup. We're going to stick it on our scales. And I guess I'm going to hit the 2 cup button and see what happens. 2 grams. What we're looking for when we start doing our espresso, we're looking for a 1:2 ratio. If we put 20 grams of coffee in, we want to take 40 grams of coffee out. Put 19 grams in, we want to take out 38. This is taking out 33, which is it's a little bit short. It's not too bad. We'll have a taste and we'll see how it goes. We always want to stir our espressos when we taste them. Reason being is that the first part of the extraction is a bit heavier, a bit thicker, a bit juicier. It sits on the bottom, and so then as we get to the top, it gets a bit thinner. So we want to stir it all in so we actually know what it's going to taste like. Not too bad, a bit tart, which is a bit of an under extraction. So we need to fix that. We're going to make our grind size. I have no idea what this is going to do, but let's just go 1 click and see what happens. What you want to do after you've adjusted the grind, there's going to be grind still in here that's on the previous grind setting. So we need to grind a bit through, throw it away, and then start again. Making sure we tear our water filter. There we go. Let's see how this goes. All right, 10 grams. All right, bit of a compaction, bit of a groom. We're going to tamp it down, hopefully nice and flat. All right, then I've already programmed volumetrics, so it should be set on the same amount of volume. Goes in, scales on, another cup. All right, and we're going to remember to start our time this time. Starting our time. Now this machine has a bit of a pre-infusion, which is all right. Usually we would use a pre-infusion in order to fix mistakes. So what it will do is it'll put a little bit of water on top of the puck, allow it to swell. So if you haven't done the exact right thing when you've been preparing your puck, it'll swell a little bit to make sure that there's no fissures or gaps around the side, and then it'll hit it with all of the pressure that it is able to hit it with. In our cafes, we probably don't need that step. If you're able to prepare your espresso or your puck well before it gets to that point, you don't need the pre-infusion, because the pre-infusion is going to fix mistakes. All right, milk. Use good milk. Use milk that has a decent fat content. Don't use the super cheap watery milk. It's gonna be rubbish for taste. It's gonna be really difficult to actually get a nice texture on it. You want something with a decent amount of fat, usually over 2%. Usually when we start it up, it's gonna be a little bit of water that comes out first. Give it a bit of a purge. Then I'll turn it off, quickly put it back in, and go back on again. It should be pretty close. So these machines are going to produce way less steam power than the commercial machines, obviously, which is perfectly fine, because I think you can still get really good quality milk with these machines. Actually, I think sometimes you might even be able to get it better. It's just going to take forever to do. So what we want to do is we want to add in not a huge amount of air. Usually we want to get all our air in before the milk returns to room temperature, right? It starts about 5 degrees out of the fridge. We want to get the air into it that we're going to get into it before it returns through 25 degrees Celsius. Then what we're going to do, we're going to continue to hold it and spin it. We want it to be spinning. Yeah, it's got to be moving around in a circle. It doesn't matter which way. And as soon as it gets too hot to touch, we're going to let go. Count to, let's say 5 on this machine. 2, 4, 5. And this should be close to 60-65 degrees. Alright, look at that, that's pretty decent milk. So, what we're going to do from here is a little bit of a pour. Got the wrong size pitcher for the wrong size cup, but realistically, that's very close to what we do at the cafe. Milk from home espresso machine can be close to as good as what we can get in the cafe. The espresso part is going to be a little less easier to replicate, but the milk's pretty good. Thank you for watching First Fruits Coffee. This is how we can make espresso at home, which is close to being as good as a cafe. I love it, other people love it. Some people, often probably the most amount of people, don't like to do this at home in the morning. Thank you for watching. If you could subscribe, that would be super helpful for our channel. We're going to be producing a huge amount of content over the next few months in order to help you make coffee better at home. Thanks for watching.